Hare Krishna. So yeah, when I came back from this trip from Canada, I came back to Mexico, and I started studying sociology. So that was in the local state university. I studied sociology, and I loved it. I actually, before that, I wanted to study music. My father didn't want to. I wanted to study psychology. My father thought it wasn't a good idea. So finally, ended up studying sociology, which I really liked. I thought it was a very interesting experience. And I started experiencing like with a lot of sensations. I was very young. I was like 18 years old, and like when I came back, it was in the summer spring of that year, 1995. One of my other friends from childhood, which was also a very influential person in my life, his name is Alvar, and he was named just like we had this, practically speaking, the same name, because my civil name is Alvaro and his name was Alvar, and so we were very close from childhood, like he and his brother and me and my younger brother as well. The four of us, when we got together, it was just for mischief, and we had a lot of fun. And we kept that friendship with them. And when we grew up, obviously we continued our mischief, but on a different level. And so he invited me for a trip to the beach on the spring break of 1995, and he introduced me to smoking weed. So that was the first time. It was a very powerful experience. I remember, like, you know, like the music, the sounds, the colors. It was just like a very powerful experience, and I became attached to that. So I started experiencing more and more with this thing. And soon after that, my best friend from high school, my friend Magdiel, introduced me to this girl, which was like it was the singer of a rock band, and it was very emblematic, because this girl represented like I fell in love with her, and we got together for some time, but she kind of like represented another important figure who was also like the female of a female singer of a very popular rock band in Mexico. So this young girl she also had a rock band, and she sang there, and so I became very infatuated with her, and so much so that I became, practically speaking, like Vaiṣṇava-saṅga Thakur. I once at night went over to visit her house, and I climbed up a wall and climbed up a fence and just went into her room through the balcony. I mean, it was very exposing, you know, myself. It was like very dangerous, but I was just like Vaiṣṇava-saṅga Thakur, you know, just blinded by lust, which I didn't know what it was at the time. It was just like a driving force that motivated me to go. And she wasn't there when I arrived midnight. She wasn't there, but and obviously she never like became like the spokesperson, you know, of my guru. But soon after that, like, we broke up. She broke up with me, and I became very, very depressed. Maybe that's the only lesson she taught me, you know, that she said I should go to an island, you know, so that I don't hurt people. But anyway, I became so depressed that the only thing I had to hang on to was weed. So I just kept smoking weed, and I became very depressed. I became very introvert, and I just withdrew within myself. And but I kept in touch with people, you know. I kept socializing, you know. Couldn't be completely apart from the world, so I kept studying sociology for that year, and I kept experiencing, you know, getting to know people, and just you know, learning things in the material side of life. Most of it is just sense gratification. I was basically heading into a hedonistic lifestyle, little by little. But anyway, having many experiences, in November 1995, we did a trip to Festival Cervantino, which is a cultural festival here in Mexico, which did a lot of concerts and outdoors, and it's like a cultural festival with drama and many things happening in the city of Guanajuato, very, very beautiful city in Mexico. And during that trip, I met a girl. I fell in love with another girl who had like colored, dyed hair and piercing. So the funny thing, first thing I thought when I saw her, she must be from France or England. And so I kind of like became attracted to this girl. She became my girlfriend. And during this trip, I also met a group of kids that were from the same high school, and like and they were musicians. They were playing on the street. They were playing some drums on the street with buckets. So I became attracted to them, and we made friendship with them. And within this little group of kids, there was one boy, Alejandro Franco, which became close to him not so fast, but he was part of this group of friends that we formed a rock band actually with this Jaime and Alfonso, these boys. They already had a band, so I joined them and we had a rock band, and I guess that was like the best period in my life when I was playing with them, and we wrote some songs and I sang with them. But I kept friendship with them, and also this boy Alejandro Franco, which I will later speak about him. And then like that was 1995, then for some reason I thought I wouldn't be able to develop professionally studying sociology. So then I changed career, so I changed to University ITESO, and I studied communication science there in 1996. That's when I started there. And during that period I remembered also that during the first semester, because we were a small group, we began in January, so it was a special group with a small quantity of people, maybe 20 students there. But there was one particular boy called Santiago Certuche, and this boy he was amazing because he was studying there with us, but he wanted to leave. He wanted to leave because he wanted to be a priest. He wanted to devote his life to God and to religion. And so he was kind of like so enthusiastic. He was like he had this devotion which was like boiling inside of him, and he was just wanted to explode. You know, he was like so enthusiastic and so happy. I was actually somewhat intimidated by him, you know, because at the time I was very shy and very depressed, and kind of like my energy was not. It was just the opposite of him. He was just the opposite. He was like full enthusiasm and happiness and devotion for God, you know. So he was just with us for a few months even, and then he left and we never saw him again. And so that was it, you know. Through the career we read a lot in ITESO. My experience there at the university was fantastic. I learned a lot in also like in terms of material knowledge, which definitely was not very useful in life, you know, as you compare it with spiritual knowledge. But anyway, maybe I was in touch with some people, you know, that I learned from. But I kept most of the time on my own, you know. I also had an experience, and then I also had an experience with this boy Alvar and his brother, and my brother. We also went for mushrooms once, and that was another big experience in my life, you know, because I was very inclined to nature. We went into the forest, and I remember seeing this tree breathing, you know, and it was fantastic experience as well. We used to like traveling a lot, and with a group of friends we used to go to the beach, to a place called Maruata, which is a beautiful beach in the south of Mexico. And I think it was 1997, after one of these trips to the beach, when I came back, I got news that one of my friends from childhood, from school, because I had studied in a French-speaking school, and so this girl had passed away in a car accident. Her name was Nadine Mas, and I was shocked. I was really shocked because I had never experienced like a close death in my life of anyone. And her mother had written a letter explaining how she was living this experience. She was experiencing this experience of passing away of her daughter. And it took me some time to actually accept that and to read that letter. But when I did read the letter, I just burst into tears, you know, because she was saying that God had sent her this test, and she could either live it in pain or live it in love. So she had decided to accept this experience and live it in love. So I was just like bursting into tears. So it was also a very shocking experience, you know, to learn about the death of this girl. And anyway, at the time, I guess I was also feeling a lot of separation from my brother. My younger brother had already gone to Germany. He had gone to Germany and stayed there. Practically, he came back for holidays and stuff, but he kept going back to Germany. He went there as an au pair, and he just stayed there to study and to travel. So I didn't see much of him, and I was very close to him, my younger brother Luis. So I was feeling a lot of separation from him, and I also wanted to travel somehow, and I also wanted to change my environment, because I was becoming very addicted to smoking weed, and I wanted to just somehow or other change my environment so that I could try to give it up somehow or other. So there were some girls, some American girls who had come to the university on an exchange program. One of them was Andrea Woods, and the other one was, we used to call her Kiki. It was a black girl, a thin black girl with dreadlocks, kind of like braided hair or something. And I made friendship with these girls. I always tend to make friendship with foreigners because I always loved languages. I loved speaking French and English, so I always tend to make friendship with foreigners. And so I made friendship with them, and for some reason, like this black girl, she was from Richmond, Virginia, and so I started to search for an exchange program through the university. And I was actually trying to find other options. In fact, I wanted to go to Colombia or South America, but my father didn't want me, knowing that I was a pothead at the time. Obviously, he wouldn't want me to go to Colombia. So he said, so anyway, I just, and the other option was going to Richmond, Virginia, so I thought it was okay. I thought I'll give it a try. So I applied for that, and I went for an exchange semester in the University of Richmond in Virginia, United States. So that was also an amazing experience. I was there in also early 1999. I arrived there, and I started taking courses on environmental education and ecology, urban ecology, and I started to focus in my interest in environmental issues. And it was a fantastic experience as well. I had a course in anthropology, and that was the first time that I started approaching religion from a scientific perspective, or from the point of view of anthropology. And it was interesting because when I was in Richmond, I met this black girl, Kiki, and funny enough, she was a Christian. I didn't know back then. I didn't know when I was here in Mexico, but when I was there, it turned out that she was a Christian, and she invited me to a group of Christian friends that they had like a gathering, like gathering every so often, like once a week gathering or something with his Christian friends. And I started attending, out of curiosity, to hear what they had to say. And so it was interesting to hear what they had to say, but I still had some challenging spirit. And once there was one boy, he was like it was a big and strong, tall, black boy who was kind of like the leader of the group, and he used to preach. And so once I challenged him, I didn't know much about religion or anything because I wasn't exposed to it, but I remember I have heard about Gandhi and how he was like a very important figure in India. So I was attracted to Gandhi somehow or other, although I didn't know much about him. But I told, because this black boy used to say that Jesus is the only way, right? And I thought, and I challenged him. What about Gandhi? Does it mean Gandhi's not going to heaven? I mean, he's done so much good for the world. So I kind of like challenged him, that Jesus was not the only way. And so this black boy, he kind of like blasted me, he kind of like threatened me that that if I didn't accept Jesus, I was going to hell, and I was like shocked, But anyway, I just stopped attending their meetings, and I felt really bad, because I felt that I had done kind of like a huge apparat or something. And after that, during my time there in the university, I remember we went to kind of like a party with some friends, and I drank so much that I was just about to drown myself in a river there in somewhere in the woods. I was just like so confused and so disturbed, about what I had done. but by Krishna's mercy, I didn't commit suicide. Although I was tempted at different times in my life. During my depression times, I was very suicidal, very confused. But anyway, I survived that, and then I finished the semester. I finished my semester there in the University of Richmond, and then we had the chance to have an experience called internship. And so it was a fantastic experience. As an internship, I chose to work for Campaign Virginia, which was an environmental organization that used to do canvassing around all over the state of Virginia and some other states nearby, gathering signatures and funds for lobbying. Their idea was to do lobby work in order to pass laws, for environmental justice, such as, especially we used to work on the issue of all the trash from New York being dumped into Virginia. So we used to travel all over Virginia and going in vans with groups, going door to door, requesting people to sign the petition and to give funds, checks or cash. So it was fantastic. It was such a beautiful experience traveling all over Virginia and meeting people. And it was funny because I met a group of kids that work for this Campaign Virginia, and they're kind of like hippie kind of boys. And once in a gathering, in a party at someone's house, they light up a joint and they were passing it around. So I smoked with them again, and although I had stopped, for the time because I wanted to stop this, but anyway, I got involved into it again with them. And then through some of my friends, we had some common. There was a girl called Jenny who joined Campaign Virginia, and during some of the parties we used to go to, she introduced me to another girl called Carrie Waterworth, and she became like my sister. I really became very close with her. We became very good friends, this girl Carrie, she invited me with Jenny. They invited me to a rave party that was going to take place in the woods there in somewhere in Virginia. So I went with them, and I took my first ecstasy pill. They gave me a pill, and I was just dancing. It was a beautiful experience. I felt like so happy, so blissful during the party, but I remember having the idea. I really, within the back of my mind, I thought, wow, this is amazing. This state of consciousness, this feeling is amazing, but I'm sure it could be achieved without drugs. I'm sure this could be achieved through meditation. So that's what I thought. But anyway, I enjoyed the experience, and it was fantastic. Then soon after that, there was going to be a rainbow gathering in the Allegheny Forest in Pennsylvania, and that was going to happen just before my departure from America. It was going to happen a week just before I had to go back to Mexico. And in order to attend this rainbow gathering that I was going with Carrie, I had to quit Campaign Virginia in order to go to this rainbow gathering. So I remember my boss, he didn't like that. He said, well, if you decided to quit, the only thing I can tell you is going to be a very immature decision on your part. So I thought, oh well, I'm sorry, but I really want to go to this rainbow gathering. So anyway, I did that. I quit Campaign Virginia 1 week before, and with Carrie, she and I, we went to visit one friend of hers in the forest of New Vrindavan, which was beautiful forest, beautiful lush forest. We went to visit this boy Chris, and then we picked him up, and we had met him at the rave party. Actually, we had met him at the rave party, so we just went to visit him, and then Carrie and I, we just went to the rainbow gathering at the Allegheny Forest. And that was an amazing experience. It was an amazing experience for the whole week. I was shocked, to see the diversity of people. So many people there, all the hippies, especially like the hippies, because it's a hippie festival. And I remember seeing like a couple of old people that were like naked, like old wrinkled and naked, and then I saw like people meditating. It was just such a big diversity of people, It was just like, it was really, really shocking. But it was also very nice that was the first time that I saw the Hare Krishnas. That was the first time that they had set up a tent, and there were some brahmacharis dressed in saffron, chanting Hare Krishna, and maybe distributing prasadam. They were asking also people to do some service. I went into some like sweat lodges as well. Anyway, that experience in the Rainbow Gathering was amazing, and that was the first time that I saw the devotees, like saffron colored dressed devotees and chanting Hare Krishna.